Howdy, I'll be reading commonly asked leopard gecko questions and then answering them based on research of my own experiences and sources of dubiaroaches.com and reptifiles.com. If you have questions that went unanswered in this video, comment them below and I'll do my best to answer them. Let's begin. How long do leopard geckos live? Leopard geckos generally live to the age of 15 to 20 years old with proper care. Owning a leopard gecko is basically a 20-year life commitment. What do leopard geckos eat? Leopard geckos are insectivores, which means they eat bugs, and this includes invertebrates. In the wild, they eat beetles, grasshoppers, spiders, scorpions, and centipedes. Here are some staple feeders. Dubia roaches or discoid roaches, they're different. Crickets, silkworms, grasshoppers, and BSFLs, which is a black soldier fly larvae, which is also called new cheek grubs or calciworms. They have a bunch of different names as well. The treats, which means fed once a month, are hornworms, waxworms, butterworms, superworms, and mealworms. You want to make sure they're the right size for your Leos. You don't want them too small or too big. Also make sure all feeders are kept abread, gut loaded, and dusted with supplements. I have a video in the top right corner of the screen in the info card, going in more depth with what feeders are best to feed your leopard gecko. Do leopard geckos eat fruit? As said previously, they are insectivores. They should only be eating insects and other invertebrates. Invertebrates is a group of animals that neither possess or develop a spine. How big do leopard geckos get? They get to be around 7 to 10 inches long, which is 17 to 25 centimeters. And if they are a giant morph, they'll get bigger. Females are generally smaller than males. Are leopard geckos nocturnal? No, this is a common misconception that comes from outdated research. They are crepuscular, which means they prefer to come out at dawn or dusk, but will come out of hiding whenever they want. Do leopard geckos need UVB? Yes, very much so. In the wild, the sun would give that to them, but it's essential for them to have a UVB fixture on top of the enclosure or else they'll have issues with metabolism, especially vitamin D and calcium. That myth came from outdated research. It is proven that they do sometimes bask under it and benefit from it. How often do leopard geckos shed? They can shed as often as they like. If they're healing from a wound, you might find that they shed more. They also shed a lot if they're juveniles. They're sneaky at shedding, so sometimes you won't even see it shed. But always check them over just in case they had a shed and have stuck shed on them, especially around the claws. I've noticed if you get a leopard gecko as a rescue, they may shed more right after or 2 weeks after settling in, as they might have been kept in a small enclosure with their past owner. You might also notice this with Leos, that you've upgraded to a bigger enclosure. What size enclosure should be used for leopard geckos? Adults should be getting a 40-gallon enclosure at minimum. Babies and juveniles should be getting a 20-gallon at minimum, and then upgrade to a 40-gallon when they reach 1 year old, which is when they're an adult. If you have something bigger than a 40-gallon, don't worry. If you provide enough clutter, bigger is always better. 40-gallon is only the minimum size for the adults, as well as a 20-gallon for juveniles. I say babies should be in a 20-gallon because they'll grow into a juvenile fast. Otherwise, I'd say a 20-gallon in the meantime for babies. A 40-gallon is 36 inches by 18 inches by 18 inches, and that's 91 centimeters by 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters. A 20-gallon long is 30 by 12 by 12 inches, which is 76 by 30 by 30 centimeters. Where can I buy leopard geckos? Pet stores and reptile expos across the world will have them. There are rescues out there with leopard geckos and other reptiles, and I highly suggest a rescue due to animals being surrendered a lot by people that are not able to afford them, not able to care for them properly, or they get bored of them. Not all rescue-placed reptiles will have issues, so don't be afraid to look. An excellent rescue will have their reptile in the healing process by the time they're ready to be given to their forever homes. You can also view online stores for reptiles, but make sure they're reliable first. Do leopard geckos like to be held? That depends on the leopard gecko. Some will walk up under their owner's hand, and some will run away to hiding. If you handle your leopard gecko enough, this won't be an issue, and please note that some will take longer to get used to this than others, especially if they've had a bad past with it. I have a video about mandrakes handling sessions. I suggest you check that out as well. It'll be waiting in the description box below. Can I keep leopard geckos together? No, no, and triple no. You should never cohabitate a leopard gecko. Unless you're putting them together for temporary breeding purposes, I do not suggest you house leopard geckos together. They are unsocial and will eventually fight. Some people will tell you they've never fought. They've been together their whole life. They're a bonded pair. This is not true to an extent. While they may not have fought, they show signs of being territorial, being stressed, and competing for things. Just because they haven't fought yet, it doesn't mean they never will. Leopard geckos that aren't fighting are most likely to snap at each other and cause wounds that are expensive. Females take longer to snap at each other. Males will stress out the females. I won't go into info about that in this video. And males will be territorial to each other. Just because someone has 30 plus years of reptile experience, it doesn't mean they know everything. Studies have proven that leopard geckos are unsocial animals and you should not be cohabiting them. People that try to justify that their experience is better than scientific research just proves they don't follow dated research. It is one of the worst myths that people try to keep alive. They do not cuddle either. That is them competing. They also compete for food. These are vet bills you won't want to pay. What do I do if my leopard gecko drops its tail? Put the leopard gecko in a temporary setup which should have a paper towel substrate to keep the wound from getting infected by loose substrate. The tail will grow naturally, just like in the wild, and don't worry when it doesn't look the same. It never is. Also check the care that you're giving your leopard gecko and what could have made him drop the tail. Fix what you've done wrong. You will need to feed your leopard gecko a bit more often as the tail that held the fat in it is not there anymore until it is fully healed. How long does it take for a leopard gecko to regrow its tail? Their tail can grow back within 30 days. I would ask an exotic veterinarian for a more accurate answer for this one. How many times can a leopard gecko drop its tail? There's really no set limit as far as I know, but leopard geckos shouldn't lose it more than twice at most. Ask an exotic veterinarian about this for a more reliable answer. Are leopard geckos poisonous? No, you can probably eat a leopard gecko if you cook it. I'm assuming that whoever asked this question doesn't know the difference between venomous and poisonous. Poisonous is where you'll get very ill or die from eating it. Venomous is when, if you're bit, that can affect your body negatively by it or you die. Venomous also means that they can spit venom at you. Can leopard geckos be kept on loose substrate safely? So, as some of you might know, most loose substrate is bad for reptiles because they'll eat on the substrate to eat feeders, or lick the substrate to smell around, and get impacted by the substrate because the substrate does not pass through the reptile well at all. My answer to this question is that it depends on the substrate you use. I have a list of safe and unsafe substrates in the top right corner of the screen in the info card. Question 17. Why aren't you subscribed yet? It's free! And according to my research, only 2.2 of you are subscribed. So if you're not, go ahead and do it. That wraps up today's questions. If you have some of your own, put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them all. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a video. Remember that subscribing is free. May God bless your day. Pixel out.